Welcome to Motivational Humanity. You are not alone.
It happens at the worst possible moment. You're standing at a dinner table, and the woman across from you, the one you met at your cousin's wedding, and then again at that birthday brunch, and then again just last month, is smiling at you, waiting, and her name is gone. Not tucked somewhere, just out of reach. Gone, like it was never written down anywhere to begin with. And here's the part nobody talks about. The forgetting isn't even the humiliating bit. The humiliating bit is the 90 seconds right after, when you're nodding along a little too enthusiastically, praying someone else says her name out loud first, praying your phone buzzes, praying the waiter shows up and gives you an excuse to disappear into a menu. We have all lived inside that exact panic. But here's what almost nobody tells the people who live there the most. The chronic name forgetters, the ones who've done this so many times they've started apologizing before they even open their mouths. They are not careless. They are not self-absorbed. And they are almost certainly not as scattered or unintelligent as they've quietly convinced themselves they are in the privacy of their own heads. There is something very real happening inside their brains in that moment. And once you understand what it actually is, you may never carry that particular shame the same way again. Let's start with what your brain is doing the second you meet someone new. It is not doing one thing. It's doing 5 things at once. It's reading their face for warmth or wariness. It's tracking their tone. It's quietly calculating where you stand. Do they like you? Do you like them? Is this a conversation you want to be in? It's already half drafting what you're going to say next. Your working memory, that small, short-term holding shelf tucked behind your forehead, is juggling all of it simultaneously. And into that exact moment of noise, someone hands you one single arbitrary sound. Hi, I'm Priya. Priya. Okay, Priya doesn't mean anything yet. It doesn't connect to a memory, a feeling, an image, anything you already carry. It just lands there, alone, in a brain that is, frankly, far too occupied to catch it. There's a name for this, and psychology has actually tested it directly. Back in 1987, researchers Kay McWeeny and Andrew Ellis ran a study that's now known as the Baker-Baker paradox. They showed 2 separate groups of people the exact same photograph of a man's face. One group was told his profession. He's a baker. The other group was told his surname. His name is Mr. Baker. Same 4 letters, same word, technically. Days later, they tested both groups' memory. The group who'd learned Baker as a job remembered it far more easily than the group who'd learned Baker as a surname. Why would the identical word behave so differently in memory? Because as a profession, Baker instantly pulls in a whole net of associations. Flour on the counter, the smell of a bakery at 5 a.m., warm bread, a specific kind of tiredness. As a surname, it activates none of that. It just floats there, rootless, unattached to anything. And that's the thing about names in general. They are, by design, semantically empty. Your brain, which is a genuinely efficient machine, whatever it feels like some days, holds tightly onto things that mean something and lets go, almost immediately, of things that don't. Think about the last time you sat through a graduation. You probably still remember the exact moment the speaker's voice cracked, or the way your mother gripped your hand a little too hard, or the sound of the whole auditorium going quiet for 1 second before it erupted. You almost certainly do not remember a single line printed on the paper program they handed you at the door. Your brain made that decision without asking your permission. It decided, correctly, that the program was not the point. The moment was the point. It was never the printed page. And a person's name in that first meeting is the program. Everything else about them. Their laugh, the story they told about their sister, the way their whole face changed when they talked about the thing they love. That's the graduation itself. Now here's where it gets a little more uncomfortable, because it's more personal than most people want to admit out loud. A large share of chronic name forgetters are people who are deeply, anxiously in their own heads during social moments. Not from arrogance, but from a kind of low-grade internal panic. While someone is introducing themselves, part of their brain is already running a completely separate broadcast. Am I smiling too much? Was that handshake weird? Did I just talk over her? The name arrives for half a second and then gets bulldozed by that internal monologue before it ever has a chance to settle. This has an actual name too. Psychologist Malcolm Brene documented something called the next in line effect back in 1973. He found that when people are sitting in a group, waiting for their own turn to speak, they retain almost nothing of what the person right before them said, because internally, they've already left the conversation. They're rehearsing what they're about to say next. They're editing themselves in real time instead of actually listening. People who live with social anxiety, or even just a restless, hyper-alert self-awareness, are essentially stuck in that mode by default. Never quite fully present, always half a step ahead, bracing for what's coming. Which means the exact moment a name is handed to them, some part of them has already checked out to prepare for the next thing. If that's you, if this is a pattern you recognize a little too well, here's the reframe worth sitting with. You don't have a memory problem. You have a preoccupation problem. And those are two very different diagnoses. It's also worth being honest about the people on the receiving end of this, because pretending their feelings don't matter would be dishonest. Having your name forgotten, especially more than once, by the same person, lands like a small, precise little wound. It reads as a message, "You didn't matter enough to stick." That's what it feels like, even when it's completely untrue. The brain doesn't always reach for the rational explanation first. But here's what's usually actually happening on the other side of that moment. The person who forgot your name has probably replayed the conversation afterward more than once. They remember what you said about your brother. They remember the specific, unusual way you laughed at something halfway through dinner. They remember an offhand opinion you had that stuck with them for days. They were there, fully there, just not there for the name part. And this points to something most people fundamentally misunderstand about memory itself. It is not a recording device. Your brain doesn't store your life the way a hard drive stores files, neatly labeled and retrievable on command. It stores impressions, emotions, textures, fragments, and it prioritizes ruthlessly without consulting you first. Something emotionally charged, stored. Something surprising, stored. Something that connects to a piece of you that already exists, stored. One arbitrary syllable handed to you at the exact second you were busy trying to look composed in front of a total stranger? Good luck. There's a pattern worth naming here too. People who forget names easily often share something in common. They tend to be deeply associative thinkers. Their memory is rich, layered, contextual. They remember stories. They remember the specific look on someone's face right before they said something that mattered. Ask them what a friend was wearing at a party 3 years ago, and they might describe the exact shade of green. Ask them the name of the person standing right next to that friend, and you'll get silence. Because their brain was cataloging everything except the label. That is not a flaw. It's simply an architecture. One that happens to be extremely well suited to storytelling, to emotional attunement, to the kind of listening that makes people feel genuinely seen. And it's just less well suited to the narrow, mechanical task of holding on to what someone was called under social pressure. None of this means you shouldn't try to get a little better at it. There are real tools that work, and they work precisely because they force your brain to do manually what it refuses to do automatically. Say the name back immediately. It's so good to meet you, Diego. Attach it to something visual or to someone else you already know with the same name. You're essentially building a small footbridge between Diego and something in your mind that already has a permanent home. That's not a trick. That's just giving your brain the association it wasn't handed in the first place. But the shame spiral, that quiet, corrosive belief that forgetting names makes you an uncaring person, someone who drifts through life without really registering other human beings, that belief is simply wrong. And it deserves to be said out loud, clearly, because so many people carry it for years without ever questioning where it came from or whether it was ever true to begin with. You are not absent. You are not dismissive. You are someone whose brain prioritizes differently, gets hijacked by its own internal weather sometimes, and occasionally fails at the single least interesting thing about a person, the arbitrary sound someone else assigned to them before they'd done a single thing worth remembering. The name was always the smallest part of it. Everything else you remember about people, the real texture of who they are, That part never left. It was there the whole time. It's still there right now. If any part of this felt like it was describing you a little too accurately, tell me in the comments. Was it a name? A face? A whole conversation you couldn't place? I read every single one. And if this gave you even one moment of relief today, that's exactly why this channel exists. Subscribe, turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next, and share this with the one person in your life who's been quietly carrying this same guilt. You don't need to fix yourself. You just needed to understand yourself. I am reclaiming my peace.